Of you joining, we're going to be doing the Q&As through the Q&A box in Zoom. So if you go down to the bottom, sometimes right in the black bar at the bottom, and sometimes you have to press the ... more. There is an option for Q&A. If you open that up, you'll be able to type questions in directly to there. So please don't put any questions into the chat. It's hard for us to track those and know what's been answered already. So put those into that Q&A box, and we're going to try to get through as many of those as possible today. And so this is going to be covering both the MedTech Innovator Program as well as the BioTools Innovator Program. So if I haven't met you yet, hello, my name is Nicole. I am the Program Director for MedTech Innovator, which is our accelerator for digital health, diagnostics, and medical device companies. I'm also joined here today by Jim West, who leads our BioTools Innovator Program. So I'll let him give a brief intro for himself and that program.
Thanks, Nicole. Happy to be here today. Pleasure to meet y'all. Glad you're showing up. Yeah, so we're here to answer your questions about either of our programs. Um, some of you could apply for both, but some of you may have questions about which one's right for you. So we're happy to try to take those on today. A little bit about me. I'm a founder, engineer, entrepreneur. I founded a company that went through the first year of BioTools Innovator. And now I'm here for the last year as the director. So it's really a pleasure to be joining. This is going to be my second year, but I'm really excited to kick it off and see where we go. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. And we're going to be hearing more from Jim in a bit, briefly about the BTI program. And my background is also as an entrepreneur and founder, but in the med device space, specifically biomaterials and 3D printing. So if you're interested in that space or have experience in that, I'd particularly love to talk to you. But I'm interested in any and all med tech, and our program is as well. So to kick things off, this is the main important thing and why you're here today. We have an application coming up for all of our programs, deadline on January 15th. So that is in a week. So make sure that you get your applications in the next week. Only one more week to apply. So definitely start it today if you haven't yet. You still have a week to fill it out. The application form itself, it really depends on, if you've done other programs like this, if you've got, all of your materials pre-written for things like, bios, things like that. But take a look at the application sooner than later because you want to know what you're going to be preparing. One of the things is a pitch deck. So you want to make sure that you have all those materials optimized and you're not trying to put together a last minute pitch deck on the 15th or realize there's a question that you haven't thought about. You want to ask an advisor about things like that. So definitely start your application as soon as possible. And January 15th is our deadline. So make sure you get those all in the next week. And if you have any other questions beyond this that come up after the fact, Jim and I are also happy to take questions over email. Over the next week, little disclosure, we're all going to be at the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. Hope to see some of you guys there. If you're going and you'd like to, meet up and have a quick chat, let one of us know. It would be cool to talk to you and meet you in person before you finalize your application. So I'm going to be talking today about MedTech Innovator, which I mentioned is our accelerator for medical device, diagnostic, and digital health companies. So this was really our flagship program that was started by Paul Grand 13 years ago, spinning out of RCT Ventures to support MedTech companies. Since then, we've had more than 700 companies go through the program, leading to many different successes, including almost $9 billion in follow-on funding that these companies have raised. And you often hear from folks that this, startup world is tough. About 95% of startups, end up going out of business or folding in some way. But actually, the opposite is true for MedTech Innovator. 96% of our companies are still in business or have been acquired. So a lot of successes, including 350 products in the market and FDA approvals, and nearly 50 acquisitions as well from companies that have been through this. So really great track record. Best of the best companies that end up making it into this. And I'm sure, some of you might know people that have been through the MedTech Innovator program, and they'll speak to the value of that. So our mission overall is to improve human health by accelerating the growth of these companies transforming the healthcare system. You already have really great ideas. You're already doing very innovative things. Our mission is to help you bring this to life, to bring it to patients. If it's already with patients, to make the largest impact possible through increasing your market, improving, your sales strategy, things like that as well. And so our program is for any and all stages of med tech companies up to, I would say for MTI, probably not more than 200 million or so in equity raised. BTI is slightly different requirement that Jim will talk about. But we do split our companies into an early stage cohort as well as a mid stage cohort. So if you're, just launching, maybe bootstrapping, seed round, or spinning out of academia, you're probably in our early stage cohort. So these companies generally, have a prototype, some preclinical data, some bench testing data, but, often aren't yet at the clinical trial or commercialization stage. Whereas our mid-stage companies are in many cases already 510(k) cleared or in, a pivotal study for a PMA or maybe already on the market, which is the case of particularly a lot of our devices in the more consumer wellness space that have a shorter regulatory approval to market. So that's basically an overview of MedTech Innovator, and I don't want to take too much time today, but these are just some examples of types of companies we've admitted to the program. On our website, you can find a link to all of the alumni in our portfolio section that have gone through this. Very useful page. I go to this all the time to find recommended companies for people to look at. You can sort it by clinical area, by tool type, by device type, digital health type. And so if you're like, I really want to see just cardiology diagnostics, you can select those categories and see all the companies that have been through the program. So we've got a lot, even up to, a lot of hospital operations, patient monitoring, more things on the billing coding, note-taking side. What I like to say is, as long as number one, it's improving healthcare, and number two, you have a unique technology involved in this, it's a fit for MedTech Innovator. If you're just like an e-commerce platform selling other people's goods, then maybe that's not a great fit. But if you have some special technology, this is how you'll get in. And so now I'll turn over to Jim, who's going to give a brief overview of BioTools.
Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, so BioTools is a little bit younger than MedTech Innovator. We've completed 4 years of the accelerator, going into our fifth now. In that time period, we've helped more than 60 companies grow their companies. And we haven't talked about this yet, really, but each of our programs consists of cash prizes. So there is competitive cash awards. These are not investments; they're not equity. It's just prize money to you guys. But we've given away almost $1.5 million to date in our program, and that'll be growing in the future. And across our companies, we've had more than $166 million in follow-on funding, and that grows every month. So, the big difference, next slide, please, Nicole. The big difference between MedTech Innovator and BioTools Innovator, as Nicole said, we both have the missions of improving human health. But the difference is for BioTools, these are life science tools. They're platforms, they're technologies, and they span a lot of different categories. But I think of if you've got a product that really touches a patient, if it's used in or on a patient, it's most likely a medical device product. You're going to require some form of a regulatory component, a small clinical study, things like that. And for the life science tool companies, it's often a bit different. It's more unregulated. These are either components to a process or parts of a process, but often don't contain the regulatory burden. Now, there's always exceptions to the rule, and we'll go into some of that as we go on. But just wanted to kind of share that. And we're here for you guys. We are here because we love startups. We want to see you guys succeed, and we want to help make the world a better, healthier place for all of us. Um, so, I was gonna share actually. So you can look at the slide, but I actually with my company, I originally applied to MedTech Innovator, and it was like back in 2019, I think. And I flew out, I went to the pitch event, I met everybody. And they were like, Jim, we love you and we love your company, but we don't really have a way to help you. You're not a medical device. And so a few years later, they called me up and they're like, hey, we just started this BioTools Innovator program. Would you consider applying? And it was perfect for the type of company that I had. And so it really is an important group of products and an important niche. And so we're looking for companies that are doing all sorts of things from research products and instruments, and this can be bench tools, this can be in-process manufacturing validation, this can be a whole lot of things, but really sort of tools and platforms that are used in labs or other areas. Drug discovery and drug development. Obviously, this is a huge burgeoning area with AI and all the data that's being developed to develop better, faster, safer drugs. We also have enabling technologies for food and agriculture. So food and ag has a huge impact on human health, and so we don't exclude food and ag company technologies. And also, a lot of them could lay the foundation for future impacts on human health, as well as cheaper manufacturing and things like that. R&D and manufacturing services. If you've got unique technologies that help enable new methods in R&D and manufacturing, a lot of these companies will start with a service as they're building towards a product. Totally great, and we love seeing those types of companies. Diagnostics and enabling technologies. So, this is part of the gray area of medtech innovator, biotools innovator. So, if you're in kind of this area, you may want to talk to us or consider applying to both. The diagnostics, I would say on the medtech innovator side, I would classify it more as generally sensor-based, image-based type diagnostic products. For medtech innovator, it's more, it's more proteomic, metabolomic, sequencing type technologies. And then recently we've added improving preparedness for medical countermeasures. So this is part of a recent partnership with BARDA. And so we're looking for technologies that help scale emergency preparedness that can have an impact in drugs, development, validation, clinical trials, those types of things. Thanks, Nicole.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Really appreciate it. So, as Jim mentioned, you get to work with many different awesome folks during the program. So for MedTech Innovator in particular, we have a variety of strategic corporate partners that are very important to, the growth and strategy direction of any MedTech company. So you can see some of them in the center here. Johnson & Johnson, Olympus, Dexcom, BD, Gore. So particularly if your technology matches one of their interest areas, really recommend you apply and maybe even, mention in your application, would be great to work with BD because they're in this space. In addition, we have a variety of service provider mentors and experts that can help you with your milestones. So through MTI, we will specifically match you with mentors based on, maybe you need to draft a clinical study plan. Maybe you want to work on a marketing strategy, things like that. And we also have a variety of specialty tracks. So you'll notice during the application, one of the questions will ask you if you're interested in one of these specialty tracks. So we have a heart and brain track, which I think in the application is actually called cardiology or cardiovascular and brain health track. A military medicine track through MTech, and then a plastic surgery track. BKIC, you've raised your hand. If you wouldn't mind putting your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom. And for the rest of you guys, if you have questions, just a reminder, start putting those in. We've already got 23, so looking forward to getting that rolling soon. We also, through our APAC program, if you're looking strategically at the Asia Pacific market, have unique partners through that. And Jim talked, a bit about like BARDA and their interests, but you want to talk a bit more about the partners and mentorship strategy for BTI, Jim?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the great things about BioTools Innovators ecosystem is, if you've been in the field of this field for long, there's a big difference between biotech investors and life science investors. And I think what we do a great job of is we bring together this community of really life science investors who get tools, get the space, get the platforms, and want to see and invest in companies like that. So we have a great community of those people, as well as strategics that operate and perform in this space. The BARDA collaboration partnership is fantastic, and it allows us to grow and scale all the things we do. If you aren't aware, we did just finish our first funding solicitation. So with our partnership with BARDA, we're now actually able to give out grants, grant awards of interest, kind of like an SBIR. And so we finished our first funding solicitation back in November, but we'll be doing these going forward. So if this is of interest, make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn and let us know because we'll be putting more of those out in the future as well.
Great. Thanks, Jim. And so with that, just wanted to show you some examples of companies that have been through both of our programs so you can compare and contrast what types of companies have been through, especially if you're, maybe borderline, perhaps you're a diagnostic, trying to decide which to apply to. And wanted to note too, if you're uncertain, you can apply to both programs. We have had several people pitch to both programs. And when it comes to cohort selection time, we will choose which program is the best fit for you based on your milestones and the mentors and what you're aiming to accomplish, particularly with your go-to-market strategy. So if you're more on the, again, patient, surgeon, hospital facing side, med tech innovator is going to be more for you. If you're selling to, a lab, whether that's, a hospital, academic lab, or a larger, lab system, BioTools Innovator is more for you. Pharma companies, things like that are going to be your customer. So really think about who your customer is, and who's going to be interacting with your product itself. So just some examples on the MTI side is Samai. They were our grand prize winner this year. Also, one of our first Latin American companies to go through the cohort, so very exciting for that, to see that. They're developing acoustic resonance patches for COPD diagnosis and management. Arsenal Medical, so this is a platform technology developing innovative biomaterials. Sorry, their logos are switched there. The shape sensing company, which is developing fiber optics shape sensing tool. And then Lattice Medical, which was our mid-stage winner this year, which created a 3D printed tissue engineering chamber for personalized breast reconstruction for regeneration. So really, I love seeing all, of course, the biomaterial 3D printing companies, but a lot of stuff in the surgical space. And if you have a physical implantable device, that definitely fits more in MTI. Jim, you want to explain some of the BioTools ones?
Yeah, thanks. And I would say, this is always a challenging area because if you've got a unique or a differentiated technology, you may not see companies like yours in our list, but that's okay. That doesn't mean we don't accept companies like yours. We just haven't seen one like yours yet. So, um, definitely consider these just examples, but not anything meant to be inclusive or exhaustive. So for us, our grand prize winner last year was a company named mGenesis, and it was led by an embryologist, and she had developed the company initially in cattle to help an IVF to select the best, most fertile, active, viable embryos. Currently working on collaborations through the program to expand that to human health. So that's very exciting. We have another company, React for Life, Italian company. So they're doing organ on a chip, drug development type technologies, really cool technology they've got there. Narwhal is a company in last year's cohort as well, doing cell therapy targeted drug discovery and really combining AI into lab tools to create better, more viable data. And we see a lot of companies kind of going down that road because it's a big challenge in AI right now is just the quality of data, consistency of data, and any sort of bad data going into the models is going to lead to bad results. So good quality, clean data is really important. And finally, we have a company, CureCan, developing drug delivery technology. Really cool targeted delivery, and so kind of in that therapeutic domain. But again, a platform that could be used for a variety of nucleic acid type technologies, RNAs, things like that. Yeah, so I think again, with these companies are just meant to be examples, but please don't consider if you're like, oh, I'm not like that company, that's
Yep.
okay.
Totally agree. And if you're unsure, again, which bucket you might fit into, let us know. We've been fielding a lot of questions around this. And so, we'll probably tell you, oh, you're patient-facing diagnostics, so MTI, or, you have platform aspects and that's your main technology, so BTI, and we're definitely willing to help you determine that. Just wanted to quickly also show some great quotes from people that have been through the program already. I won't read these. You can read these. They're also on our LinkedIn as well. But really, strong testimonials, what people have taken away from the program. I would say, first of all, being in a community of people working on problems in a similar space to you can be so important. I think in both of these spaces, for example, I'm based in Boston. Here we have a never-ending supply of therapeutics in biotech companies that are creating drugs. Neither of our programs, you'll notice, have drugs specifically in our mission for creating those pharmaceutical products. We are, through BioTools, supporting the innovations that lead to those. In MedTech Innovator, it's more physical devices, digital devices, rather than the therapeutic molecules themselves. Sometimes it's combination products with a material or delivery system. But folks really love being part of this ecosystem with people that are going through similar, regulatory, manufacturing, market access hurdles as them. Anything else you want to add to this, Jim?
Yeah, I would just say, kind of while you're reading this slide, I would say one question I'm asked a lot is, if you saw those metrics Nicole shared at the beginning, they're mind-boggling. I mean, they're really amazing statistics. 96% of the companies are still in business. She didn't share this, but last year, 28% of all medtech investment went to one of our portfolio companies around the world. It's a huge number. And people often ask, like, why are you so good? Why are your statistics so differentiated? And I think the answer comes down to our selection process. And so we'll be talking about this in a minute, but if you kind of pass the first layer of our application process, we invite you to an in-person pitch event. And at these pitch events, we bring together experts in the field, investors, experts, strategics, a lot of really smart people into the room. You meet with a bunch of them, and we get feedback from them. And unlike an investment firm, which would say due diligence, are we going to invest in this company or not? We look at it and we say, okay, can we help them? Based on the challenges they're experiencing, can we help them get to the next level? And that's how we make our decision. Then we help them do it. So I think that's part of the secret to our success, but why I think it's such a great program to be a part of.
And yeah, as our CEO Paul Grand likes to say, we are the graduate school accelerator. So often our companies have already been through another accelerator already that's less specific to medtech or biotools, maybe a more general accelerator program through their university or otherwise. And now they're really honing in on their market and want that specific strategic insight for these fields. And so requirements for both programs pretty much the same as I mentioned at the beginning, early to mid stage. You should be incorporated at the time of program start. You should have runway to execute on your current milestones. So people often ask me what this means. Basically, we just want you to be able to be accomplishing things during the course of the program, which is about June to October. We don't want companies that, are going to shut down midway through the program, whether that's bootstrapping, grant funding, other seed funding or beyond. It doesn't matter as long as you have someone committed full time to the startup that can participate in the program and dedicate their time to it. You should have some prototype or proof of concept evidence. You don't need to have like the exact physical prototype you're going to be going into even animal studies with. This can be bench testing data. We just don't want companies that are holding on to a patent and not actually planning on commercializing their tech and bringing it into the world. So you should be planning to actually build your product out. And as I mentioned, you must commit, some sort of co-founder or senior leadership member to participate in the program. Generally, I say it's about 4 to 6 hour a week commitment between webinars, mentoring, things like that. Would you say that's about right for BioTools, Jim?
Yeah, similar commitment. It's self-directed, We do a little bit of programming, like an hour of programming a week, 1 to 2 hours of programming a week. You have some mentorship, meeting and responsibilities, but you really get out what you put into it. So, sometimes we'll obviously be busier than others, but yeah, I think, planning for a few hours a week, minimum would be appropriate with a little bit of flux on busier times.
Awesome. And so, yeah, as we said, there's no cost to apply. We're generously supported by our partners. I often get emails that are like, "What's the catch? There's no free lunch." The catch is that we want you to improve human health around the world. We don't want you to just do this for, for fun. Our partners are looking for cool new innovations that are going to be coming out that are of interest to them to learn about as well. So they support our program through, monetary and in-kind donations. So for you, no money to apply, no money to participate. It'll just be your time and then travel costs to a few of our events. So those are outlined here for our programs. So both programs, again, January 15th, application deadline. You can see our road tour dates here for the in-person pitch events. Won't go through these in too much detail, but reach out to us if you have a question about that. We really encourage you to go in person to pitch. Great experience for you. And also the judges are going to get a better feel for you, your technology, your coachability. And you can even like bring prototypes if you have something physical to bring. So that's always fun. We'll let you know in late May. And then our next in-person event after the road tour event, and again, just one of those you'll have to go to, not all three, is going to be our Innovator Summit, which is going to be in Mountain View, California. And we've talked about that in other webinars if you want to hear more. And then that will kick off our accelerator program, which is all virtual, so you don't have to relocate. You can do it from your office or home or wherever you're based. And so the mentoring and all the webinars and that you all do virtually. And then we each of our programs has a final capstone showcase event in October where each of you will come on stage and be on, a panel, often pitch for awards. This is where we give out a variety, most of our prize funding, which Jim talked about.
And
And
Nicole, real quick, if I could add, um, we've had a lot of questions here already about sort of location geography. So we're location agnostic. You don't have to move anywhere. We're not an accelerator. I'm sorry, we're not an incubator where we provide a space for you to come and work. It's not like that. It's an accelerator. So you can be anywhere in the world. Most of our programming happens virtually, except for, as Nicole highlighted here, we've got our in-person pitch events as part of the acceptance process, and then we've got at least two in-person events at our summit kickoff and our capstone closeout. So those we try to bring people in. But again, you don't need to move your company, you don't need to do anything like that. So hopefully that helps. And I would say for BioTools, we've always done our programs in Boston and San Diego for the most part, but this year we're actually expanding to Europe like MedTech Innovator. So we're doing an in-person pitch event in Europe for the first time for BioTools Innovator. So this is a big growth step for us.
that's super exciting. Just gone to that one, but Dublin will be fun for MTIers. Awesome. So here's the links. You should have this in your inbox, hopefully, or just go to medtechinnovator.org. All our application links are right on there. We're going to launch into questions because we've got 65 of them. So that's about 30 seconds a question. So, but we'll probably be able to stick on for a little bit longer, and we'll follow up with any we didn't tackle. We'll put together a document for that. Awesome. So, do you want to just swap back and forth reading questions, Jim? Is that makes sense?
Yeah, just start taking them.
All right. So Timo says he's from Prevess, Personalized Nutrition. Their customers are diagnostic supplement and wearable companies to enhance their offerings to users while pushing preventative health by leveraging personalized nutrition. If you're a good fit to apply, I would say yes. And it sounds like you're a B2B company, so I would really encourage you to apply to BioTools Innovator. Anything to add to that, Jim?
Nope.
Awesome.
If you were not based in Boston or San Diego, are the chances of success for program admittance winning lower? Again, we're geography agnostic, so living in Boston or San Diego or wherever doesn't give you any benefits or cons in terms of our application analysis.
Yep. And perhaps I'm unfairly representing Boston. Most of our team's actually in LA. So at what stage should companies be applying to these programs? Anything before C round is acceptable, very early stage, incorporated a month ago. Yes, you are at the right stage. Anything, we've had some companies that are completely, bootstrapped, some that, are founded by surgeons, clinicians, for example, where they're maintaining their full-time surgeon clinician job and starting this, on the side. We've had some where they have, about 200K in funding, some where there's they're still operating on academic grants and finalizing their licensing agreement with the university to spin out. So definitely apply. You're never too early, I would say. You can only be too late. In the case of MTI, that's like more than 200 million. I'll be very impressed if your company's raised 200 million and you're on this call today. So thank you for the great question.
Um, any companies in the past that suited our field personalized nutrition? I don't actually know the answer to that one. I've been here for a year and a half. Nicole's been here less than that, so I don't know if we've had any companies in the history that are in personalized nutrition. But I would say that if you're developing a personalized nutrition plan that does likely have some form of a clinical validation, I would say it's a for sure possibility.
Yeah, I'll look into this after Timo and let you know. But look at our alumni companies on the website. We might have some. How many companies are MTI accepting this year? Last year we had 65. I imagine we'll have around the same number this year.
And for BTI, it was 20 last year. We're going to 30 this year, up to 30, actually. Um, Our core technology uses cognitive behavior science, AI, and anthropomorphology to understand behavior markers and resistors such that we can then nudge them to take actions that they know but are unable to do themselves. Our beachhead market is helping people with diabetes type 2 do one thing today that will balance their blood sugar. Other applications are anxiety, depression, burnout. Um, Nicole, you should probably take this one about whether they're fit to apply.
Yeah. I would say definitely apply. So in the diabetes space, we have Dexcom as one of our partners. They do a lot of sensing around that in biomarker analysis. This is clearly, more on the neurobehavioral side of things. But we have a lot of like biometrics data and analytics companies that have been through the program. And yeah, always interested to get more companies in the mental health side of things. So I would say definitely relevant.
So this
Um,
one here, we have a diagnostic tool, a physiological and psychological risk assessment that computes risk of diabetes today and in the future as well. For those people who right now do not know if they have diabetes or not, I just decided not to mention this tool in my application to MedTech Innovator. Just wanted to ask if I absolutely must include this to better my chances to get selected. I think it's another one for you, Nicole.
yeah. I would say yes, include decided not to mention this tool. I would say, there's no harm in mentioning it in your application. Just make sure you have any relevant IP protection around it. Yeah, so I assume this was related to the other one. Um, eh, yeah, definitely include information on that. You can include supplemental materials too if you don't want to detract from your original pitch deck for this. Um, I think there was another one too about maybe like hospital operations side of things, telehealth as well. Definitely huge focus area of ours. We've had quite a few companies go through in the past. If you shoot me an email, I'll send you a list I've curated with all of our hospital operations type companies that have been through it.
Okay. This
Um,
next question is about prizes. And so the question is, you compete for up to $500,000 in non-dilutive cash prizes. What's the top prize amount, second, third, etc.? And I'll answer that for BioTools first, and then Nicole can take it for MedTech. But BioTools offers $300,000, and we have a $250,000 grand prize to the top winner, and then smaller prizes on the order of $10,000 to $20,000 for follow-ups.
Yep. And for MTI, our grand prize for the early stage cohort is 350K. Our finalists, there's usually 3 or 4 additional finalists for that, received 25K. And then our mid stage grand prize is 200K, with those finalists also getting 25K. We have some other awards as well. We both have like a best video award program through MTI. We also have a value and execution award that will provide an extra 25K funding. And some companies have won multiple awards. So they walked away with, more than those amounts combined. We've got a behavior modification based tech companies. Yes, a lot in the consumer wellness space, which is, yeah, sounds like lifestyle type things. Shoot me an email, Tom. I'll send you a list of some examples of that. Um, FYI market for 2 years. Thanks for sending that, Harsh.
So,
Um,
yeah, the next one, we're an Indian startup leveraging AI for designing novel antibody drugs. We feel like we're more suited for BioTools Innovator, but are interested in penetrating the U.S. market. Do you recommend we apply to both? And I would say, well, I mean, there's no reason you wouldn't want to enter the U.S. market through BioTools Innovator. But based on what I read here, I think you're definitely more of a fit for BioTools Innovator and not a fit for MedTech Innovator.
agree with that. If we support anti-aging products, including R&D, we have an entire plastic surgery track within MedTech Innovator. So it depends what you mean by anti-aging, but we've had a lot of devices that help with, filler injection and, breast reconstruction, things like that on the aesthetic side of things. If it's not like a regulated product in any way and not like a physical device, more of like a formulation, like a cream, probably not a fit. But if it's maybe like, a mask that you can wear, that I think would be a fit. You can send me an email if you have a more specific question. Yeah.
Are therapeutics included in your scope? We're differentiating stem cells into sperm for IVF use to treat infertility. We are doing it in vitro. I would say, unfortunately, this is probably more of a drug application. And so neither one of our programs would unfortunately be able to support this.
Yeah. And it seems like a lot of these questions from you guys are like about your specific startups. And if you're relevant, we love these, but we can also take these during over email as well and probably give you more detailed responses. If you have more like general questions, we'll try to spend more time on those ones. But appreciate that all you guys are asking if you're fit. That's really good that you're thinking about it. So another one about category of digital mental health, digital therapeutics. Yes, many digital therapeutics companies in MTI in particular. Um, it's a huge one.
You can take this next one, Nicole.
Early stage stealth neurotech startup, eligible at the concept stage in stealth mode. If I'm chosen for pitching, how would it work? That is a really good question. You will have to, well, you confidential IP, I guess, feels like a bit of a catch-22. Like, so is it protected IP or is this still something that you're keeping like a trade secret for now? I would, consider anything that you share with the judging committee, like while like they will, try to keep things confidential. We don't have them sign NDAs or anything like that with the companies. So don't share anything that you wouldn't share in, a more public format. So you will have to get to that stage. I would recommend filing some IP before the pitch event so you can share a little more. Just get a provisional like cover sheet patent or something like that, and you can update it in a year.
What are the key lessons or feedback you've gathered from the 4% of companies that are no longer operational, and how has this insight shaped any changes or improvements to the accelerator program? This is to me is a hilarious question because, industry statistics, if you're a startup, you've got about a 4 to 5% chance of success in the long run. So I think our statistic is, the only way it could be better is if we had a time machine or we're God. I mean, the the truth is there's still a lot of randomness and just things you can't account for or control in the market. Competitors come up, things you didn't see coming. So we don't, to be honest, we just haven't done a retrospective of these failures versus what we learned. It's a good idea, but I think again, our statistics are to my knowledge, higher than any other accelerator in the world by maybe an order of magnitude. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good answer. Mid-stage med tech company with international structure, half the team in the US, half in Australia. Should we apply for the US or US and APAC? Great question. Depends what your market focus is going to be. Are you going to start selling in the US and then in Australia, or are you starting with Australia first and that's your major milestones for the moment? So choose the program based on your market, not your physical geographic location. We've had companies based in Australia do the US program, companies, based in like the US do the APAC program because they want to go into that. So really just depends more on your market. You could apply to both, potentially get selected to pitch at both, and then we can decide from there based on your milestones. Yeah.
all right, a couple questions here about applying to both programs. Perfectly okay to apply to both programs. I would say if you're questioning which program you're a fit for, do feel free to reach out to us to ask in your specific case and nuance. But if you really feel like you've got part of your application that could fit in MedTech and part that could fit in BioTools Innovator, for sure, improve your chances. Apply to both programs. I would encourage that. Is the partnership with DXPX in Europe valid for both BTI and MTI? Will someone be there present from MTI? So this is a BioTools Innovator collaboration, not a MedTech Innovator collaboration. And unfortunately, this year we won't actually have any staff on site at the DXPX conference. This came together fairly late, so unfortunately we won't be able to be there. But DXPX is helping us in some of our marketing and other activities in setting up and launching our first European road tour event. And if you're also not aware, DXPX is a diagnostics and precision medicine conference. The founder of it was in my same year of BioTools Innovator cohort back in 2021. So we have a good relationship and history with them there too.
Great. Someone asked if they can apply with just one business line of my startup. Yes, you can apply with just one business line, or you can apply with multiple as a platform company. The BTI program is, almost exclusively a platform company for many, different areas. A lot of times, MTI, we have a lot of platform companies, particularly in like the materials space that can be used for many different clinical indications. So just choose whatever your focus is at the moment. If you're, building out a pipeline, go that route. If you're really, focused on, your one key product you're trying to get to market, focus on that, and you can, share that better in person at the pitch event, what you're looking for guidance on. Yeah.
Nicole, I'm typing some answers to these questions. So if
Okay,
you want to
yeah,
keep taking
I'll
notes,
get
keep
through some of
typing some
the
answers.
MTI specific ones. Supporting value-based care payment modeling. Are you assuming fee-for-service environment? We don't have a specific model that we follow in MedTech Innovator. We're supporting the model that you're going after with your product. And so in particular, we have a value program exclusive to the MedTech Innovator cohort companies where you'll be matched with experts in reimbursement, healthcare economics, payment coding, things like that. So you'll go through an intensive workshop on these concepts and identifying your stakeholders and what they care about. And then alongside a value coach through more individualized coaching sessions can help map out this roadmap for evidence generation and helping you decide which of these payment models is best for you. But we've had companies with, I would say, every single business model imaginable go through it, CapEx, disposables, implantables clearly, SaaS companies on the digital health side commonly. So a lot of different strategies there. What's the implications of applying for mainstream versus specialty track? So basically everyone in the track is also within the mainstream or MTI program. They'll benefit from all of those resources of the main program. So you're not going to be like in a separate corner. You're going to be in your cohort of AHA and also in the broader MTI program. So the applications will just be reviewed by specialists from those tracks if you select it, but they'll also be reviewed by our other partners. So especially in the case of, AHA, one of our partners is Edwards Life Sciences, which is pretty much exclusively in cardiology. So, if you're in the cardiology space and you select this track, you'll probably be reviewed by both. This cardiovascular disease diagnostics, I would select any that you're interested in. You never know what the partners might be interested in. I've seen a lot of folks that are, for example, applying to both the heart and brain and the military medicine track, or military and plastic surgery if they're maybe in like a wound healing, surgical sealant sort of space. So definitely check any that are of interest to you, and we'll review you holistically. Yeah.
So I got a question here about the application process. It entails two stages before being admitted to the program, the application phase right now, and then the pitch events that run March through May. Is that correct? What's the admittance rates of companies who make it to the pitch event? So that is correct. So you're in the first round now with your application, and then we shortlist those to generally it varies, but it's about 10 to 20% of the top applicants that get invited to the in-person pitch events. For BioTools, Once you're at the pitch event, it's about a 50% acceptance rate. So, med tech, I think Nicole can answer that more specifically.
Um, yep, sorry, which question was this, Jim?
Jan, it's
Jan. Oh
answering
yeah,
my.
yeah. So I would say it's around 15% make it to a pitch event, and then about 5% from there will, or 5% overall will make it in the program. So if you're invited to a pitch event, there's about a 1/3 chance that you'll make it into the program. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just thinking about Erica's question, which is any partnerships with clinical providers or hospital systems. So no formal partnerships at the moment, but we do have a lot of strong connections with folks at like the Mayo Clinic, Hackensack Meridian Health, the UCLA Medical Center as well, that we make connections for, and specifically the mentors that you're assigned, both formally and through our value program, will often, have connections at these hospitals. A lot of our, reimbursement experts will do like a mock value analysis committee, and the folks at that often, have a hospital background. While there's no formal partnerships there, there's a lot of connections we can make for that. So great question, Erica. Interest areas, showcase themes for 2025. What are you looking for? We are looking for the coolest innovations that are going to help improve human healthcare. In general, you can look up our partners and their interest areas. I think, since they help with mentorship, our cohorts tend to reflect their clinical areas in a way, but not necessarily. And especially, for our mid-stage companies, those are a bit more holistic, but always seeing, interest in cardiology, neurotech, especially more so now, urology, seeing more, interest in like consumer health, things like that. But yeah, what are we looking for? Yeah, great companies that are going to change the world. That's the answer. This seems like an MTI one. Phase 2 SPR from NIH to develop a dynamic bedside commode post-acute assistive device rather than acute care. Seems your program is more in acute intervention. Not necessarily. We've had a lot of really great companies in the longer term assistive space. Look up a company, AT Dev, led by a fantastic CEO, Todd Roberts, one of my favorites through the program. They have assistive devices, including enhanced mobility like wheelchairs, things like that, and robotic systems for longer term and like rehab purposes. So yeah, not just acute care. We've got a lot, on the consumer wellness side as well. So Oslo was our best video winner this year. They are making sleep buds to help patients fall asleep at night, and also going after some tinnitus applications in the future as well. So those are definitely, longer term assistive devices.
I'm going to take one here. What's the curriculum of the accelerator? So, we don't really have like a formal curriculum. This is not a pitch accelerator. We don't teach you to pitch just to raise money, although a lot of companies do work on that. But I would say we're really a mentorship focused accelerator. We connect you with expert mentors specifically to help you with your goals and connections. And that's part of why I think we can be successful across such a broad range of companies of different stages. In terms of the curriculum, it does change every year. The curriculum I would consider to be sort of our online panels. We do info session panels weekly between each program where we bring in experts, but those are curated each module based on feedback from the cohort in terms of what they're most interested in learning about.
If there are two company applications with a similar solution, do you only accept one of them? This is a really good question. And it's funny because often our partners kind of like unintentionally will be into a specific area and accept multiple in the area. We saw this year, I think, with two neurotech companies, two urology slash neurostim companies, and two cardiology diagnostics companies that I would say were sort of like twins in what they were doing and their approaches. I would not, let that keep you away from, applying because I think it's best to, as they say, like keep your competition close, keep your, friends close, enemies closer kind of thing with other companies and also with the partners. And it really comes down to your technology. It's possible one of these partners is going to acquire both of those companies in the future for different technologies to roll into their portfolio and different aspects of it to combine. So no, we do not only accept one of them. And especially we've had a lot of alumni go go through the program in the past. One of them has probably been in your clinical area. That's totally fine. We know there's not one winner at the end of the day. The winner is, really all of the patients who are benefiting from these innovations. Mental health and reducing empathy fatigue for health professionals, a relevant area. I would say as long as there is something innovative and technology wise about your solution and what you're doing. Is there a proprietary algorithm and maybe an app or diagnostic tool you're developing, or a proprietary way you're treating this empathy fatigue? Really comes down to, yeah, that. Do you have anything protected or unique about what you're doing?
Nicole, we got a couple questions here about digital health. Do we accept digital health, telehealth startups? And if we do, can you have any past examples of companies that
Yes,
have?
yes, many digital health companies. Telehealth, that is a good question. We didn't have any this year. We had, I would say the closest this year we had was Doppel, which is trying to make interventional procedures more accessible. By sort of like deploying remote groups to work in different settings that are more resource limited. I'll look into telehealth and I'll hopefully let you know by the end of the webinar if I can find one specifically. But I've seen a lot of cool innovations in telehealth come out since COVID, and I know that we will definitely have some in the future because of just its growing presence in the healthcare system. Um,
What's the number of companies except for the cohort? We've answered this previously, but 30 for BTI, 60 for MTI. Nicole, we can probably stop the slide share too.
yes, that's a good.
Also, just so you guys know, we have 5 minutes formally left in the session. I will say I'm willing to stay on and answer more questions, so we'll keep going for a bit longer to get through these. I don't know if we'll make it through all of them, but we'll do our best. So we'll just keep going here. Um, Nicole, can you talk about this one? It's about I don't even know what this acronym is. DMHT is an emerging area with reimbursable codes for SAMD. We have fully developed SAMD in this area. Sounds like an AI platform patient app in the diagnostic space. Is this a fit?
Digital mental health treatment. Yes, it sounds like a digital platform for diagnostics. Again, as long as you have relevant technology. And on the telehealth side, I just found an alumni company called SPECT, which is building a digital eye screening platform. So basically telemedicine to diagnose eye diseases. I know we also, not directly related, but DermaSensor is similar, but for skin, basically sensing melanoma. And we've had a bunch of actually dermatology remote diagnostics companies in this space, via cloud-based SaaS platform. Yep. Thank you,
Is
Will.
MTI connected to any U.S. medical societies like AACC, HFSA, AHA, or CRF?
So yes, AHA is one of our cohort tracks. We have also MTech, which is the military medicine, and then ASPS, American Society for Plastic Surgeons. We also really encourage folks to talk to whatever their relevant society is as part of our value program, because a lot of times these societies are the ones that determine the coding that is used for reimbursement. So we have those specialty tracks at the moment, but we're always hoping to grow those. And so if you have connections at a specialty track and you'd like to see that in the future, we'd love to talk to them and maybe even set that up in the future. Um,
If the target customers are health systems, is it good for MTI or biotools? That's a great question. I think the answer is we need to know a little bit more about the product and the details about what you're trying to achieve, but I think the answer is it could be either.
yep, I totally agree. Depends if it's, going to be patient surgeon facing or if it's, some background B2B tool. You want to take
Are
Sergio's
the
about
I was going to take this one. Are the pitches virtual or do they require a physical presence in the US? If physical, is there some financial support provided for flights and accommodation? So generally, we do each have a virtual pitch event. These are done in conjunction to the in-person ones. But we would all highly recommend if you can make it to the in-person event. The virtuals are smaller. It's not as dynamic as the in-person. You make a lot of great connections. There's a lot of great networking. You meet with investors, you get feedback, you build relationships. So there's a ton of value in these. And again, it's not just the US. MTI has a Dublin event, and BTI is having a Germany event this year. So you don't necessarily have to come just to the US, but if you're in Asia or something like that, of course, the virtual event could make more sense for you. In terms of accommodation support, unfortunately, no, at this stage, we're not able to provide any sort of financial support. We don't charge you guys any money to be in the program. We don't take any equity. So, if you guys wanted to start offering up some equity and paying a bit more money for the program, then we could talk about providing more support to come to the events. But unfortunately, at this stage, no, you would have to provide that yourself.
Yeah. But you could win a prize. So there is a chance of that and you coming out, ahead with the travel costs after, the awards. Not guaranteed, but chance of that. Someone asked about recording. Yes, we will send out after this the recording to everyone who registered. Acceptance rate we already talked about. It's around 15% to get invited to a pitch event and then 5% overall.
Same for BTI.
Yep. Uh,
Of the 20
Jim.
BTI companies selected, what percent was this of all applicants? Again, you do the math. 300 applied, 20 got in.
We've got market for a hardware solution, wellness assistive device, moving toward a new versions of medical device. Would I be good fit? Yes, exactly. This is the story I was telling earlier with Oslo. They're currently a consumer device for helping people sleep. They're going into tinnitus app indications, and that is why they wanted to do MTI to get some more advice on going into that market and the regulatory pathway and reimbursement pathway for that.
Nicole, what's the likelihood of a device that's never been cleared as a DME to be approved for the program?
Most of our products have not been cleared yet. Yeah, so durable medical equipment clearance specifically, that's very specific. Yeah, I would say we have a lot of disposable companies. We have various stages of product development. Yeah, anywhere from like, they have maybe like a patent and a bench prototype from their lab in academia, all the way to something on the market they're selling. So it really, I would say the potential for you to get in has more to do with the innovation itself, what you're actually solving. Are you doing something innovative or is it very me too, rather than your stage? Because, to be frank, like we can be the most helpful oftentimes to some of the earlier stage companies that aren't fully, at the door yet. And for the mid-stage companies and later stage companies, we can offer a lot, for market access, but we have a wide variety of mentors and partners, and what they're able to help companies with varies broadly. So. And I know we're coming up on 1 or 10 if you're in Pacific. So if you need to hop off, thank you guys for joining. I think Jim and I are going to plan to keep trucking through these, but we we appreciate those of you that want to stick around for it, and we'll definitely get the recording out if yours hasn't been gotten to yet.
So Nicole, apologies, my Zoom crashed, and I've apparently lost all the questions. So we're on you.
Good.
Bring these
Well,
questions up going
fun.
forward.
I'm gonna first of all repin you up here and remove pin from blank Jim. And I will ask you these sort of like interview style. So I'll be Oprah Winfrey. BioTools application is mainly centered into the prize. Could you provide more details about how BioTools accelerates the companies and how you get involved with the companies? They're also curious about the legal entity of BioTools Innovator, which is a good question.
Yeah. So the short answer is we don't have a lot of time to go into the details here. That's why we had our previous info session. So if you go review the info session about BioTools Innovator, we go deep into detail about the program, what we cover, what the mentorship means, our events, what you do, the kind of support and expectations that you have. But in short, it's mentorship, it's access to community, ecosystem, experts, investors. And it's a chance to build a community of peers with your alumni. And, again, there is, I believe, a ton of credibility that comes from being selected as a biotool or a medtech innovator company. In terms of the legal structure, we are all under the same roof. So medtech innovator, biotools innovator, we're the same company. We just run different programs within the company. We're a nonprofit, if that helps.
Yep. Great. Got another BioTools one. TMA is a tech-enabled service that creates a financial mechanism for payers to front load WGS into a rare disease care, ending the patient odyssey. Is this kind of approach applicable to BioTools Innovator?
Uh, Gosh, I
Whole
don't know how
genome
to
sequencing.
answer. I don't know how to answer this one. I would say, please follow up in an email because I don't think I understand what's being asked based on the questions. I need to know a little more.
Yeah, but it sounds like probably BioTools Innovator. It sounds
Probably
like you're
biotools,
in
but
genome
again, it really depends on
sequencing.
the market, the application, how you're going about it. So we
Yeah.
need to talk about it.
All right. Got a question on interaction with the sponsors, such as BD, that are part of the panel that selects companies. How do they participate? Many ways, one of which is they will listen to the pitches. So they'll select companies they're interested in hearing pitches from. They will have representatives at each of our pitch events who will actually meet you and help with selecting. So they will help with selecting, especially for early stage companies, those that they feel they can help best, whether based on their milestones or clinical area, general business strategy. From there, they will mentor you. So over the course of the 5-month period, really the mentoring relationship is up to you. I would say commonly it's maybe like a 1 hour meeting every 2 weeks with your mentor. And then they also help us with our prize selection process at the end. So when we're deciding who is going to be a finalist for these awards that we give out in this non-dilutive funding, they will provide feedback and say, hey, like Michael was really great throughout, the program. We worked on these milestones. He really executed well. He should be a finalist for the execution award, that kind of thing. Got likelihood of the device that one we already answered. B2B company, tech is a platform with ability to have coatings for medical devices and also encapsulating materials for drugs. So preparing that for both BTI and MTI. Yes, that sounds like a good example of a company that should apply to both. In the positive event, both accelerators consider it, with the final outcome be based on the outcomes of the pitch events. Yeah, Jim, you want to speak to that a bit? I know we had that happen a couple times this year.
Sorry, can you repeat it again? I didn't quite
Just basically
catch that.
they have coatings for medical devices and
Oh.
encapsulating drugs. So like kind of combination
Yeah,
product,
so
but
for sure,
more platform.
coding medical devices, medtech innovator, encapsulating drugs, biotools innovator. So yeah, totally different application markets, but products. So I would encourage you to do two applications, one for each product, each program.
Yeah. And based on what the partners think and who wants to mentor you through it, we'll either say like, like Zimmer was really interested in like the coding technology. They want to mentor you. So MTI, or like, the drug encapsulation is really interesting to BioTools. So we'll put you in that.
Yeah. And just to build on that, I mean, last year we had a company on the biotool side that was a bit of a blurred line. They had a little bit diagnostic, a little bit biotools, but we actually ended up pulling out a mentor from MedTech Innovator over to biotools to help them in the biotools program. So it's a leaky funnel.
Yeah. All right. So got a company developing a novel nanotechnology process to reduce ABV in wine and spirits, giving consumers more choices for low, no alcohol beverages. Interesting. Is this a fit for BTI, Jim?
That's a good one. We've not had this one before. I would say this would be on the periphery of what we would probably consider a fit for BTI. I would actually want to know a little more about the longer term product market opportunity, if it's kind of what the technology is, what you're doing. So I'd say feel free to reach out, but I would probably list this as questionable based on the response I heard as a fit.
Yeah. Think about if your technology could be used in other markets as well. Like maybe alcohol is a byproduct of a fermentation process for creating a drug or small molecule, and you want to reduce the alcohol content in that. So there you go. I just gave you your next market. That would be great for BioTools, for example. Company is Axon Acuity. We use predictive analytics to save lives and improve hospital operational efficiency and resource allocation, which is most appropriate. I would say MTI, anything that's hospital operations, is going to be MTI. Yeah. Happy Earth with compostable personal protective equipment for healthcare, medtech, and pharma industries, circular waste management system to create biofuel. Are we better fit for MTI or BTI? Ooh, that is a good question. I would say MTI because of the PPE focus. If you're touching a surgeon at some point, more than likely it's MTI. Yep.
But I would say if you had a better biofuel tech bio process, that would be BTI.
Awesome. Developing plug and play platform for cell engineering for enhanced tunable antibody production. This sounds very BTI. What do you think?
BTI.
Yes, 100% BTI. I heard you say something about helping inform medtech versus biotools streams. If you're curious about both US and APAC, do we need to decide up front, or can you help us steer on that as well? We can definitely help steer you. If you're going into both markets, again, the differentiation here is which market you're going to be selling your product in, not where you're based physically. If you're going to be selling your product in both, you feel free to apply to both, and then we will, after you pitch, help decide which makes the most sense for you to fit into. Ways you've supported digital software-based interventions. Founder of a company that sells AI-powered data collection software. Sell to pharmaceutical companies. Any members of previous cohorts partner with pharma companies through MTI. Yes, a lot of digital and software-based tools, and a lot of our partners are specifically in this space. So like Siemens, on their software side is a partner. BioT, Valentium does a lot with cybersecurity for mentoring. So very relevant. We have had a lot of companies that have been through the cohort. Sorry, Luke asked a question. Can you see my questions? We'll scroll down, Luke, and see in a sec, but I'm sure we just haven't gotten to yet. We've got 30 left here. Yes, definitely relevant, and we can help steer you in the right direction for those partnerships. A lot of our alumni have done pharma partnerships, and same with BTI. So we're also like Jim and I chat all the time about companies and their needs. So if I'm like, hey Jim, this company needs a pharma connection, is anyone in BTI done like an AbbVie partnership that I can introduce them to? We can cross collaborate for that end of things, but definitely sounds more MTI from the outset. We've got a company developing a novel nanotech process to reduce, oh, that one we already answered. Talk a bit about, oh, that one we've already answered. Sorry, I haven't checked these off yet. Elaborate on BioTools partnerships and the assistance you provide with that. Are those mainly with the partners of the accelerator or with external companies? What do you think, Jim? Yeah.
Um, for BioTools, it's a combination. I mean, some are very interested with the partners, and some are just interesting technologies people want to see come through. So there's no right or wrong answer here. It just is what comes through.
Vanessa, I've just clarified her questions for MTI. That was the durable medical equipment one. Same answer. As MedTech innovator form companies that have made 3D printed prosthetics? Yes. Our mid-stage winner this year was Lattice Medical, which is making 3D printed breast implant cages. Basically, you can put a flap of breast tissue into to populate with autologous tissue, and we'll grow from there. We've had like more external facing class 1 prosthetics as well. One example is Customize from our APAC cohort this year. They're creating 3D printed casts. So can help, be more flexible for kids. They can customize them to make them more fun, different things like that. So Customize, if you want to look them up, but definitely relevant, Philemon. What types of workshops do you provide through both programs? I'll talk about MTI. So we have a webinar series that we run through both programs, and through this we will recruit basically the needs of the cohort at the beginning of the program. What do you want to hear about? Is that M&A? Is that regulatory routes in a specific area? And then we will curate this webinar series, which is usually like 12 or 13 sessions across the program, based on interest areas specifically. In MTI, in addition to this, we have our service providers offer consult sessions. So think of this like office hours and expert talks that you'll hear from them about various areas. All of these webinars are completely optional, and you don't have to send the primary person in your team. You can send other people from your team. I talked about the value program earlier, so won't talk about that in too much detail, but that's another unique program opportunity we offer through MTI. And at our summit, it's basically like one giant 3-day, 3-day workshop of different seminars and things to work through. So if you'll all come together, MTI and BTI for that. And yeah, Jim, you want to add to that?
I think that's good. No, there's a lot of benefits. And actually there's a lot of benefits after the program that we don't even talk about or haven't talked about. Like we have access to professional databases of like business information, investment information that we give alumni access to that would cost tens of thousands of dollars a year otherwise. We host an event at JP Morgan. So like next week, our whole team will be at JP Morgan. And if you're an alumni, we have special event access and opportunities for alumni who are in the program to engage at JP in different ways. So there's a lot of intangible benefits beyond just the obvious stuff.
Yeah. And through MTI as well, we have a fantastic actual also alum like Jeff June, who's been through the program and really deep knowledge on the med tech space. And so he's led workshops, on term sheets and things like that, more deeper dives after our webinars for people that want to work through these aspects with him. He's a very helpful resource for leading that. Um, Favorite company scaling story that you've witnessed or been a part of through this program? What made it stand out? Are there any key takeaways from their journey that you think other companies could benefit from? Ooh, it's a good question, Ryan. Do you want to answer that, Jim? I've been
Well, it's a tough one.
less
Yeah, it's
than
a
a
tough
year, so I
one.
don't know.
It's a tough one for us because again, Nicole and I have only been here for a year for one program cycle, so we don't have a huge history yet. In the biotools, there have been very few exits yet, myself and one other. So we don't have a lot of history there yet, but I would say that, there's other people not on this call more qualified to answer that question. But, I would say, if you look at BioTools Innovator, the average like raise size, the size of a raise post program is around $8 to $9 million. And in MedTech Innovator, it's much higher. So, I think that when we talk to people in the program about the biggest values of the program, the answer most commonly refrained is the community. And so surrounding yourself with a bunch of like-minded individuals, other CEOs who are building, growing, and developing their connections and relationships, those are things that create tons of value in the future. And so the answer is there's lots of case studies, but to share one here, I don't have one at the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I know of our alumni because I've been involved with some of the alumni activities. So, for example, like Zito, which is making a really cool EEG headset for seizure detection. They just closed a $31 million series, I think C round today. So very excited for them, and they're bringing devices to patients. I really like Neurovalens as well. They're doing sort of like a almost like direct to consumer approach for their device to help with depression and things like that, and running some really cool clinical studies out of a bunch of sites across the US and Europe as well. So they're co-located between Belfast and San Diego. So that's a really nice example that just two alumni that I've seen really, really growing after this. But good question, and hope we can answer that better next year with our current cohort. The founder of an AI-powered at-home semen analysis test using flow cytometry and a telehealth solution should be applying to MTI or BioTools or both. Ooh,
That's a good one.
ooh,
I would
both?
say, honestly, for this one, I'd probably put both.
Yeah, I think
That's a
both. It is
toughie.
like patient facing, so to say, but then also like the
It's a
flow
tool
cytometry
technology
aspect
platform, so
seems like, yeah, it'll be used in labs after the fact. So both,
apply
yeah.
to both, please.
Um, which TRL should be attained to apply? Um,
We
so
don't really have a
technology,
requirement here,
yeah.
except for BioTools, we kind of recommend that you have at least like a lab proof of concept. If you don't have that, there's not enough data to know if this is real or not. So at least have a lab approved concept. But I'll tell you, the programs are pretty competitive. So while we do have a few pre-seed companies that make it in every year, the vast majority of our companies are seed and Series A, and it's even higher on MedTech innovators. So you got to be a pretty compelling answer and solution to make it through without sort of that stage. Obviously, the farther along you are, the higher your odds because the more is known and the more is set and the less risk there is.
Yeah. We don't have a hard and fast rule. I would say like, two is where like, yeah, basic principles are studied, practical applications can be applied. I would say at least that you should not just, this shouldn't just be like a napkin sketch idea. You should, have a good idea of how this is going to be practical and if it will be practical. Is the funding cap of 200 million a hard limit for MTI? Nope, it's not a hard limit. That was just, I think the highest that we've had so far, potentially. So you've raised 255 million. Amazing. Good for you, first of all. Since the company was first developed and now being used with a newer product. And this is a really good example. So yeah, like Arsenal Medical that's been through our program, they've raised more than 100 million, but they already finalized their first product through the company and sold it off to another company. So in the case of medtech, you see this a lot where especially a platform company will develop a specific product, bring it through the regulatory pathway, spin off that product and sell it to a company and then develop the next using their technology. I think this makes a lot of sense. And it's really, it's less about the hard and fast number, how much money you've raised, but what you can get out of the program and if you can get anything out of the program. So it sounds like since you're much in earlier phases with this newer product, it makes a lot of sense. I would just say mention that in your application, say even though we've raised this, we've only really committed to date about, a 10 million toward this new product line or something like that. I think will help clarify the development status of that. We are a voice acoustic marker based startup having applications in mental health and neuro. We already have an AI model ready with limited samples. What is the recommendation? We have a mobile application in the final stage. This sounds MTI to me. So voice acoustics. So yeah, this is going to be patient facing. So yep, I would recommend that. Time for the pitch presentation during the selection process. You'll have 20 minutes total. We recommend the pitch itself take only 5 minutes. This is for MTI. I don't know if BTI is going to do anything different this year because we really want you to spend the bulk of your time talking to the judges at your table, learning from them, hearing their questions. And a lot of what they're judging you on is not your pitch. They've likely already seen your pitch deck. If they're coming all the way, traveling out to see, 10 or so companies, they've probably already seen your pitch deck. They want to meet you and talk to you and ask you questions. Yeah.
We do a prep session on BTI at least for each pitch event. So we kind of go through the details. We talk about the format, what you're going to do. But Nicole's right. You get 5 minutes and 15, so 20 total. Although I would say a lot of people, they'll take up 10 or even 15 in the pitch. I would say that's a mistake, but it's your time. So if you want to have engagement and feedback and opportunities for discussion, you keep it short. If you just want to fill the room with your voice and not get any feedback, then you take up the 20 minutes with your pitch. But that's a mistake.
Totally agree with that. Collate AI, they are providing patient-level clinical outcomes prediction targeting engine to transform clinical studies. Our client base is pharma/biotech. Assume we would fit BioTools innovator. I think
Agreed.
so. Yep. Yep. Again, really all about who your customer is. If you were saying like, this is what a surgeon's going to buy into to save their time with clinical studies, then maybe, but this is B2B. Applying, we'd obviously commit to all in-person events. What happens if we'd miss any? Ooh, good question. We obviously understand if there's an emergency. It'd be you missing out on the opportunity is long story short. Our summit is a really unique, once in a lifetime opportunity for you to meet your cohort, to meet our partners, to benefit from the events. The showcase at the end, I think for MTI, 63 out of our 65 companies came. It's most of the time, if you're in medtech, this, you go to conferences and you pay to pitch. Like you pay like $2,000+ for a slot on stage. We give that to you for free. So if you're missing out on that, that is a huge opportunity cost that you're just throwing away. So, while like if you have a wedding that weekend or something, we usually recommend you, if you know in advance, you just send someone else from your team. That happens a lot. It usually is a leadership type C-suite person, but we have had like advisors come on behalf, other like lead engineers come on behalf if the founder, CEO can't attend the event. On the pitch event side, again, it's just going to hurt your chances of getting in if you can't attend in person. But we will have a virtual pitch event option for those that have to miss a pitch event. So we saw this, with some Israeli companies, for example, last year that couldn't attend last minute, and so we could slot into the virtual event and things like that. Um, We've got, does MTI take completing companies? I think you mean competing companies, maybe. We talked about this a little bit. We don't say, okay, we only take, one company working on AFib and that's it. We will take any company that's working on something innovative and new and is distinct in their technology. If you somehow have a patent that infringes on the patent of another company, that's maybe like another question, but you can compete in the same clinical space for sure. And, oftentimes areas are attractive to work in because they need innovation. And that's why so many end up in those areas.
I would add too, I think, we're cognizant of competing companies in the program. So at least for BioTools, if we see two companies that are very similar, we would likely only take one of them into the program in the same year. So, across years, no problems. We take competing companies. But if you were very, very similar, um, we not saying we wouldn't take both of you, we very well could, but it would be something we'd think about. And there's definitely like opportunities to sort of keep your engagement separated. We have different pods, different sort of engagement areas where you could make sure that you're not in the same group if that's a concern.
Any guidance on pharmaceutical or drug company startups? You want to take this, Jim, and how you?
Yeah. Again, we're not a biotech accelerator. So if you are a drug company, if you're developing a small molecule, a drug, a therapy, a cure, a treatment, you've got that clinical trial component. You're talking to the FDA. You're raising tens of millions of dollars to do clinical trials. Unfortunately, you're probably not a fit for our program. The caveat is if you have a platform, a sort of like a drug delivery or a drug discovery part of your platform or a component that has broad applicability, and you'd be looking to build that as a product or technology as well, then we can consider that, and that part could be a fit. But again, if you're a true just like drug company, unfortunately, we don't have mechanisms. We're not really set up to help you at this stage.
And there's plenty of accelerators. I know this because I'm in Boston that are set up to support pharmaceutical startups. Plenty. One good example is Nucleate. They take many companies, but really pharma biotech is their focus. So you can look into that one as well. They're really great.
So this one here, how much does the market patient size matter to you? Our solution is around concussions, not the general population. I think you can take this, Nicole.
Yeah, that is, sorry, where is that? Oh, that was the last one. How much does the market patient size matter to you? So it doesn't matter specifically if you have like an orphan condition you're addressing, that's totally fine and more power to you. It's really just more, is your business model sustainable? If there's only 3 patients that can benefit from it, probably don't have a sustainable business model long term. But if it's, a platform tech and this is your beachhead market and you're going to be going into, other indications and applications after you prove it out in this market. We get a lot of companies that take that approach. I would say that's not uncommon. Yeah, concussions
And
are.
if I could, I think we would argue that the vast majority of MTI companies have a unique patient population. It's not tools for everybody. Not everybody needs cures for the same disease. So,
Yeah. What time are applications due? I believe it's midnight Pacific on January 15th.
yep.
So you're in Eastern, you'll have a couple more hours, but don't delay it. Start it like today if you haven't yet, because you want to get a lay of the land of the questions too and what it's going to ask to be prepared with. You can save it and go back at any time up until the 15th. So don't be afraid to start it sooner than later. We've got company based in Mexico focused on preventing and addressing workplace health issues, collect and analyze data, personalized solutions for corporate wellness. Does the incubator address the needs of international startups? Yes, I would say about a third of our MTI companies are international. I don't know about BTI. Jim, is it about the same third? Maybe a little lower
Um,
here.
it's 25%.
Yeah. And how does it support the integration of AI and big data technologies? As I mentioned, we've got a lot of partners that are specifically in the digital health, big data side of things. So like Siemens, Biote, Valentium I mentioned, that are specifically more on the data health side that will help mentor you. And it sounds like, yeah, you're more broad than having one clinical area. So, maybe even like, yeah, Johnson& Johnson would be interested for more of that, broader perspective on the healthcare system. Selection criteria when evaluating a company. What do you value most? Oh, ooh, good question, Jim. Do you want to take this one, Jim?
Yeah, I think so. I shared this in a previous info session, but the truth is everything matters. You need to have a different technology, you need to have the right team, you need to have, product, there's a whole bunch of factors that go into this. But I would say at the end of the day, the defining factor that really like gets people in or out is coachability because the only thing we can provide is guidance. And so if you're a person who doesn't listen, doesn't take advice, doesn't want advice, um, it's probably not going to be a good program for you because that's really all we can offer. So I think that it's a big part of our selection. People who are really eager to learn, really eager to sort of soak up knowledge. The defining characteristic of a CEO is to get as much input as you can and make a decision. You don't have to listen and follow the advice of everybody, but you need to listen and consider the advice. So I would say for me, it would be kind of that would be the overarching feature that defines successful CEOs from others. And it's a huge factor in sort of who gets into the program.
Totally agree with this. I think this is one of my favorite parts of MedTech Innovator is not that we have we do have the coolest technologies, but we also have the coolest people. And I think that's what our cohort also loves is we'll put you in pods to meet other people in the cohort. Most people like check Slack like every day and respond to things and even ask like general life advice to their cohort because that's how close they are. So we want people that are going to be supportive of others in the ecosystem too, not just, one man for himself. So this is something we can help we'll analyze a bit during, the pitch process, and that's why we want you there in person. But all of the things are important. And on the MTI side, at least, I would say definitely your technology. Do you have patents? Things like that. I'm sure the same for BTI as well. That's an important thing. Uh, how
Here's
clear
one
do
I
you?
don't know the answer to, Nicole. Can we bring a team to the table that comprises partner companies? I haven't heard this one before.
Ooh,
Good one.
we've had companies that have partners, folks from partners on their boards for sure. Um, I don't see why not. I don't think there's an explicit conflict of interest there. Shoot me an email and let me know their role. If they're like a CEO, it's going to be different than if they're like an advisor or something like that. But I think that makes it potentially even more attractive is you have someone, on the inside that can help craft your strategy, moving into that. How clear do you expect the company to be in their market position? They've developed a wearable for reducing stress and anxiety, still in the process of understanding the commercialization pathway. Sounds like you need MedTech Innovator. That's really what we're here for is helping you hone in on what your first. We've even had companies that are already on the market but are focused in so many different areas that they don't know where to focus their sales strategy. And so the earlier you can start thinking about these things, the better. And that's really why we have our value program is all stages, from early to, those 100 million, 200 million companies are in this. And everyone has different questions they're asking, whether, it's, can we be reimbursed to this all the way up to, how do we target this specific patient population the best through, a unique marketing strategy or something like that? If we're direct to consumer, how do we utilize, new channels the best for distribution, and stuff like that? So, it sounds like you would benefit from that type of advice. Mention love for cool companies, change the world. What's the coolest, most unique company you've supported? Ah, gosh, this is like asking you to pick a favorite child. I really, gosh, ooh. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think we can
Really
answer
split.
this one live here,
I don't
unfortunately. This
know.
would be more of
So
an
I'm just going to give a
in-person.
shout out to Reconstruct. They were one of our cohort companies that's developing 3D printed adipose tissue for breast reconstruction. So they're using bioprinting in the real world. Luba Perry is leading that one. They're just so like moonshot and like 3D printed organs. Everyone is like, oh, this is decades from now. They're starting to do this and vascularizing these tissue constructs. And since that's my background, obviously I have to give some love to that.
I'm choosing not to answer.
You're refraining. That's
There's
fair.
so many. It would depend. I'd have to add a lot of caveats, but there's a lot of great ones.
Yeah, yeah. I also really love AT Dev. I love their mission. And Todd is the best, but I don't know. I can't pick one. How do you conciliate when startups apply to both programs? We talked about this a bit earlier. Basically depends on who the mentors think, would get the most value out of mentoring for both programs, and what your, first market strategy is going to be that you need the most help with. But yeah, I think if you're invited to pitch for both and like selected, so to say, for both, it'll come down to milestones and how we think we can best support you. But there's so much overlap in our programs. You'll be in the same major Slack channel. You'll go to the same summit. As I mentioned, Jim and I collaborate all the time on things, webinars and stuff like that. So you won't be siloed. Great, I think we did it. Awesome. Thank you guys. Well, if somehow we didn't ask your question, it's probably because you put it in the chat box instead of Q&A. So maybe I'll give you 30 more seconds if anyone is like, wait, you didn't get to it. But also we're available over email. So you have our emails. Hopefully mine is Nicole@medtechinnovator.org. Jim's is Jim@biotoolsinnovator.org. Um, we've got a French question, which I think is a
I would,
joke.
before we move on, I would add, open up an application if you haven't, just to get it started. Like Nicole said, get it started. That's important. Then we'll know who you are and that you're in the queue. There were a couple questions about when our dates are, when the pitch events are. All of that's in the application. You get to pick your preferences. So I would encourage that. We're also going to share this video. It'll be shared with all the participants today. It'll also be posted on our website, so you can go back and review anything if you have any questions.
Yep. Well, thank you all so much for joining. And really appreciate you guys taking the time of your day to listen to this and hear Jim and I banter during all of your excellent questions. Again, if you have anything more specific to your company to ask, feel free to reach out to one of us as relevant. And we really wish you all the best of luck. And again, this is a very competitive process. Our grand prize winner for MTI this year, who won 350K, this was her third year applying. And third year applying, she got in. Not only did she get in, she won the big prize. So, don't get discouraged. We keep your applications every year. So, wishing you the best of luck this year. But, it's really about being part of this and going through it. And yeah, that's basically